Hi, and welcome to Linh Talks Tech. Today, I am actually calling from the trenches. It's a solo podcast today. It's actually a weekend, and the trench being a S4 ECC migration conversion to latest 2025, helping a customer out in terms of getting them into the SAP RISE environment. So today's appropriate episode is going to talk about, ECC to S4 HANA conversion and migration. No matter where your target lands, either on-premise or hybrid, hyperscaler, or in the cloud, I think you will find this relevant to you. So across these models and organizations, we tend to focus on infrastructure choices, but in practice, as we know, ECC to S4 success is rarely determined by where the system runs, right? It's determined by how well the conversion is coordinated. It is a fairly large undertaking effort, right? So let's talk about how this journey. Again, I've been in the SAP upgrade migration world for many years, but I want to talk about the future, right? So as you can see from mock runs to autonomous conversions, looking at how excited I am in terms of this topic. Normally, I don't get excited when I talk about S4 or SAP migrations. But in today's world now, I'm fairly excited because the tooling that is available as we speak, and we are rapidly transforming how migration conversions are done, at least for what I'm able to influence and move in terms of innovation around this space. So let's talk about it. So the journey really talk about basis team executing kind of technical conversions and developers remediating code. Um, we have somewhat of a disconnect there in terms of functional people as well, validating business process during the upgrade or the migration, and that is essentially where you see here when you're going on-prem, going to cloud, the coordination execution quality is the determined speed and also success, and also conversion across team workflow, how well you work with other functional and technical teams, integration, testing. So it's not only a basis only task. We've talked about this in the past where basis heroes carry the upgrade migration. It used to be very technical, but visibility before speed, coordination before optimization. What does that mean? It means that keeping your PMO timelines and risk management, downtime commitments honest, right? Keeping them in the loop from the very beginning. Some is only 4,000 phases or steps in average for a large ECC to S4 conversion. Goes through a lot of activities, and so keeping tab on timing, planning activities is crucial. So it's not a single technical task, right? It's tightly coupled in that sense. Now, whether you go into RISE or whether you go into some hyperscaler, it doesn't matter. The process is very important as well. So in this episode, I want to explore why traditional kind of hero-driven approaches struggle more than ECC S4 type conversions. And this is where I'm excited in introducing the intelligent monitoring, the shared visibility, kind of AI-assisted execution of upgrades and migrations help to manage the conversion for a much smoother, higher intelligent process. So let's get into it. And so SAP RISE is a forcing function because not only on-prem people worry about it, but the RISE is determining the managed services model. It's also changing existing managed services providers on how they carry the activities. And so this is constraint, obviously, and additional complexity from a coordination standpoint. So if you thought before doing a standard upgrade migration with your partner in a managed services or in a private cloud is complex, in a RISE environment, it is even more because of the coordination required across borders in terms of vendors and partners, right? So I think that's kind of a limited system access. Make sure that you have everything lined up. When are you going to need certain teams? coordination points, right? And external dependencies is very important. The constraints don't just create new problems; they remove the ability to ignore, the existing ones. So I think that complexity of upgrade migration is already big, and you want to get as much help as possible to eliminate that. Um, so it's a systematic change more than just a technical upgrade. As I say, more data model transformation, code remediation, functional process alignment, all of these are realities. So I want to talk because I said in the beginning that I'm in the trenches advising a lot of these projects, and it's exciting to bring this kind of pain point back to engineering, and from a platform standpoint, look at how we can help improve this process. I want to say that it's my desire to automate as much as possible, but we know folks in technical environment know that how difficult it is to automate something like some migration. There are so many things that happen, and there's so many deviation, even from mock runs to production runs. Even you're doing the same thing over and over again, but you have these deviations. A little bit of code, a little bit of process, a little bit of infrastructure difference or config, and it's very hard to kind of automate that full thing end to end. But that doesn't mean we don't try to help innovate the process to make it more lean, efficient, and well coordinated, right? So let's take an example. A typical ECC customer, I won't name any names, protect the innocent. Let's say you have 15 years of ECC production data, multiple geography, conversion to SAP S4 latest 2025. In fact, I've done this with 21, 23, 25. So it doesn't matter. It's roughly about the same process. So before someone where we are today, you can take a look. So some being the common denominator, right? It's the update manager is the spine. You can't avoid it. You have to kind of work around it, and it governs the technical conversion execution, the downtime critical path, all of the SPAO, SPDD, the programming, the dictionary adjustments. Teams need to be involved various different stages before, during, after, and then all the code integration, data consistency checks, and then the go or no go. So it is typically before you always talk about some, it always relate to the basis guy running it. We want to crowdsource to increase the visibility and coordination across team, because it's not just one guy hitting the button and going from beginning to the end without interacting, and coordination across different teams to get the best chance of success, right? So when we talk about doing the conversion, you always go through a mock conversions. A lot of it was executed manually, right? The logs were reviewed kind of ad hoc only when they need to. Runtime estimates based on kind of intuition, guessing, if you will, and say, so the timing can be very off, right? And then the project management office, PMO, receive kind of like a daily stand-up PowerPoint, updates, and then even less to management. And then the functional developer teams are kind of pulled in, last minute, like on a weekend. As I said, right now it's on a weekend. I could pull in the developer team and say, I need you to do dictionary adjustment, and every minute count, right? And they're not just available anytime. So you want to give them a heads up. Between this hour and hour, we predict that some is going to hit that phase. So that's very important. And a typical migration, the mock is always going to overrun the time. I don't hear anybody talking about an upgrade first time and they hit the mark exactly as they predicted. No, it always goes longer. It has more issues, all kinds of problems that need waiting, other vendors to help, SAP support, etc., storage network. So it's not unusual to have this overrun. So the lessons learned, unfortunately, are scattered across emails and chat logs, right? So that's the issue. There is that the confidence in the production cut over. You get excited about a project, and then you hit the first conversion, and then next thing you know, the confidence level across the organization, all the way up to management, drops. I'm like, oh my god, are we going to be able to meet the timeline and also the ability for us to execute this thing, right? So let's talk about the traditional problem, as we said, right? It is an activity that's driven by basis, manual status, translation, all of that, and the lessons learned kind of disappear. So the bottleneck uncertainty increases. And let's go and talk about what the second mock run. So first one is just a learning, we don't care about the time, we're going to learn. But how do you learn? You learn based on recording information accurately so that you can use that as a baseline. So what changed? So what we talk about already, the problem. So reframing that problem is a coordination, moving parts, too much dependency on individuals. And can some run? Yes, some can run, but is the program still on track? Like it's not unusual. You would start something like this, and you like go along the way. You hit a problem, you can't continue. You have to reset. You have to clean up. You have to restore the database. Implement a bunch of nodes and even sometimes support packs. Are not unusual to uninstall some components before you can even go back and resume and do it again. So if you can visualize this, any large project built in for many, many mock runs. So if you're going to do this, do it in a way where you can actually store that information, right? You have real need to accurately, I guess what I would say is manage the project, not from execution, but across knowledge base, coordination, change management. So here I want to introduce IT-Conductor Summon. So in 2025, this program was launched where from my many years in the trench and pain points, I want to be able to introduce a tool that can help consolidate the end-to-end life cycle monitoring, because some tool itself can be very intimidating, and you constantly are juggling between that kind of a single user almost access and then having to dig around for logs and figuring out when somebody like a PMO asks, when is it this step is going to finish? When are we going to hit the, certain phase like the SI check, simplification item, which is very common in S4. And when am I going to, get a shadow system where I can have developers start working on the activation errors, right? So you need to give this well. So translating this into a program insight is kind of where I came from, the pain point. So someone does this, you have a complete Gantt chart, and I'll get into some of this look and feel, just give you an idea of what it looks like. And then it works across the on-prem, hybrid, and SAP RISE environment. So this is crucial. Today, I can tell you from a aspect of doing 1, 2, 3, 4 mock conversion, it gets extremely accurate with the ability to tell from face to face when you're going to hit something, and not digging around logs inside of the operating system when from your last run, because that's extremely hard. Again, thousands of faces, logs everywhere, not very well structurally from a user experience to go and retroactively do analysis, right? So we want to do is turn the mock run into data, and that data can be not just using as an experience gathering, but you learn from that data and you use that data to analyze and run subsequent the mock runs or into production as well. All right. So visibility also built into every role, right? Once you have that data, it's amazing. I can actually, even last night, I could say, hey, exactly at around a plus or minus a couple hours, we will run into SPDD where the developer team needs to be engaged to do the activation error adjustment, right? Now, that is a very useful thing to do, and it's not easy because if you're running maybe before, when the first question was asked by project management team on Friday, people are going away for weekend. They go, when are you going to need somebody? And before, without the ability to do this analysis and projection, you're looking, I'm like, I don't know, sometime on Saturday or sometime on Sunday. Right now, we're getting down to the fact that I can actually drive and say, hey, with the information from mock runs, current runs, where we are, etc., tell me, exactly the estimate around plus or minus 1 or 2 hours confidence. Even taking into account best scenario, worst scenario, because you always hit some error, right? So face time across mock runs, etc., are compared, visualized, warnings, errors, all that also captured, so you can see, one specific some phase, can blow out your runtime, and then your entire project team and other people dependent on that could be blown out. So the variance is great, and so whatever we can do to minimize that, even the knowing where in the step that I'd say, hey, if I reach this step, I have a documented note built into the step from a prior run to go and adjust this parameter. For instance, as I give a practical example, if I'm in the phase where I'm building the SAP S4 Shadow instance, and it's loading and copying data from the repository, there's a lot of R3 load process. Maybe I start and I just say, hey, use 50. But at that point, I have a note in my summon to say, this is where you adjust it to 90, 100. So you have this clear kind of run book built into the ongoing live update from summer. Okay, so that's kind of very good to do, and also even screenshots, documented, annotated, exact steps, etc., converted into execution guidance. So this run book is like the baseline to build for your production, right? So this is going beyond just analysis. We're going into prediction and execution, right? Again, when you're running this now, as I say, we crowdsourced into a team of not just one, maybe two, but you actually can do this across time regions. It's an online access. A good example is during one of the earlier phases this week, I was actually needed to be at that event, and it's right in the middle of the extract and configuration phase of some. But typically, you are glued to the console or in your corporate environment, sitting there looking at, staring at, and you can't really go anywhere because it's going to break or something. In this case, with someone, I was able to just essentially, use my phone. I was at an event. I was able to pull it up and take a look where it's progressing. I have a good idea what's going to hit next, if there's any errors, etc., like that. So it allowed me to continue my normal job or normal life, if you will, and not only just glued to the some console, right? So this is an extremely useful thing. Even when folks say, "Hey, I configure email notification from some," yeah, but getting the alert is like 2-3 text line that something error in that phase. Has absolutely no idea. It doesn't send you logs, anything like that. Even on my phone, I'm able to pull up the face log and take a look. Hey, oh yeah, there was a connection issues or whatever the problem is, right? So it's a shared workflow. It's not only a private activity, right? And you reduce the burnout, the load. We talked about this, very important long-term longevity in running SAP operations. You need to make sure people are healthy, mind and body, right? And engagement across team, they appreciate that email ahead of time. Hey, we're coming into that 3 or 4 hours estimate. I'm going to give you a heads up. We're still on track, right? So that really can give you that level of control, and you can also use it for proactive investigation. So let's move on. So we talked about using mock as the learning, but turn into data to capture that runtime across thousands of steps, right? Correlate logs, phases, identify true downtime drivers, and really using that mock to report from past experience to provide input to the whatever you want to run. Some projects you run the projects or Jira, whatever coordination, have real data, not just a static line of information. Oh, yeah, I do this, but I don't really have good connectivity to the actual data-driven approach of running this, right? So these become evidence, not just anecdotes. So that's extremely important. Minimize the surprises, minimize the last-minute heroic needed to do Herculean effort, just to pull something out. So if you're doing this, it's fairly transparent with project team, and you're committing to a certain time window. So let's talk also where I think this embedded runbook is the basis. As we know now, Agentic AI comes into the picture. How do you use this to automate? So if documentation is the source, the data, right, during execution, it becomes very important to say, have reality. I have to attach directly in some phase steps in someone. I have decision points, workarounds, fixes, notes that I implemented, problems I fixed, screenshots, logs, all of that in one place. And that's what you do. As in someone today, if you in some just directly with SAP during the upgrade, yeah, you can do this and capture that. But if you're working on with multiple teams, as we say, your notes are not their notes, your screenshots are not their screenshots. Wouldn't you like to have it in the system? And that's one of the things. It's great. You can do this, insert the notes, and it's available along the side, all the steps, etc. It's a living run book that you can use to analyze, extrapolate, control, and that memory becomes useful for what we call comparison. So if I can pull up two tabs, one past some run from previous month and current one, I can directly compare and ask, Agentic AI. I can ask it and say, hey, based on this run here, here's the console log, overall upgrade log here from this run, compared to where I am today, right now, and give me estimate what's going to come up next. So these are all possibilities. And again, I've done this to help drive more accurate execution and estimation, right? So we also know that the project team appreciate that kind of information. So I'll show a little bit of that as well. So from mock to production comparison, as I said, is prediction to control, right? Not just predicting anymore. You have baseline information. You can say why you're projecting this. And if it runs faster, right, now all of your information is can be compared directly. Hey, we stuck in 4 hours here, based on current projections. On the Gantt chart, we can see this is going to hit within next 5 hours, whatever. So it's a fact-based downtime commitment. It becomes a repeatable thing. So as I said, agentic AI is another area where I'm excited. Within Summon, the tool, we can interact and ask it with a ticket and say, hey, given all the information you have on the current monitor stages, you can ask it, tell me when you're going to predict the certain phase, or when, how many more hours or days durations can be predicted for this. And all of that information feeds into the analysis and then can be used for observability with the context, right? So we're going from kind of the next generation of operating model in running upgrades and conversion. So this is where we think SAP operations should be heading. We are certainly going there. I've already used a lot of this in real life. The autonomous program model, where you have not run as by individual, you have a supervised by human, right? But the orchestration is done by system. That's the important part there. So when we say we can do execution, AI can recognize patterns, right? If I tell it, compare this run versus that run from last time, it would do that, right? And flag for any kind of potential deviation, they can do that. Give me estimates, best guess, more likely, and then worst case. It can give you that, and that's very good because you're feeding it real data to make recommendations and also analyzes the actual inputs, provide you useful outputs. And then if it's not what you want, you can automatically change the context for that. So this is extremely useful. This is something that I'm using every single day now, especially engaged with advisory where you're asked by a client, we're in a crunch time. We need to line up people. What do you think is the best based on your data? What is the prediction when the next phase or when somebody is going to be needed? So instead of basis team kind of shifting, running manual execution, they go into more policy-based definitions and oversight, right? Become like the human that orchestrate. And from the project manager standpoint, the PMO, instead of asking you for status collection, emails, etc., they go on for exception-based governance, meaning that I see the dashboard, I see when, I don't need you to update anything. You just let me know if there are any deviation exception, and maybe you configure the alert. The alert comes in automatically to the service desk that Agentic AI agent scans and say, oh, you've hit this error. This is likely the solution. And by the way, this impact your estimate for the next phase, such and such. So that can be easily done in terms of coordinating when you have the data plugged into the framework. Okay. So let's talk about that autonomous program control. So this is what I see the future operating model, right? So human supervised, as I said, PMO shifts to exception-based governance, and then basis define the policies, right? And this will happen regardless whether you are on-prem, right? You can do efficiently, you can do hybrid, you can do SAP RISE with confidence. And that's where the actual value comes in, is that you don't want such a big change going to RISE and not being able to also have tools and processes, intelligent ways to help you manage a complex thing like a migration. Okay. So what I want to kind of talk about in summary is that success is not about the location, right? Whether you're going to one hyperscaler or you're going to some managed service or you go on SAP, it's about visibility, coordination, and learning. And then SAP RISE just amplifies the need, right? Because now you even need to be even more able to predict closely. Because if you're doing a non-production migration, as most of the mock are, typically you don't get support after hours or weekend. So you need to be accurately predicting when you're going to land something, when you need maybe an activity that they're doing, like onlining or doing the backup or providing additional resources, etc. You need to be very, very accurate on getting that, because that ticket that you put in ahead of time, if it lands on a weekend, you're not going to get response unless you pay for like a production like support, right? So we want to do scale of knowledge and not heroics, right? So that's really what the next set of transformation I see in this space is to go from traditional manual, a single person down to more team based with tools, with being able to do orchestration, visualization, and then using agentic AI to help increase the efficiency of predictions and to predict, look around the corner, right? So that's very important from that perspective. That being said, I'm going to transition from the project to platform, and this is a good time to show you some of it, what it looks like, right? The conversions become kind of an engineered system intelligence compound over time, because the more you do mock, the more learning from it, the better the model, the better predictions are, the more logs you feed it, the more it can learn, and time projection. So each run will improve the next. And this is how it becomes predictable everywhere, regardless where you go, right? So I'm going to switch to this, which is actually summon. And this is a screen that is a live upgrade that's happening. But before I go to that, like, look at the prior upgrades. So we did a mock a while back, and this mock, if we go into summon, which is a agentless technology, will connect to some and gather information, analyze it, track the phases. If you can see from here, we have various different tools. If I go, this is the Gantt mode, right? If we go into kind of a manager view mode, you get a different view. So when you start, you have a hierarchical type of drill down, right? And you have ability to get into any of the phases with all the embedded steps, time, etc. And if you get into the Gantt, obviously that has visualization that you can see where each phase are, how long it take, right? And if you go into any of the fields, you have full built-in logs, right? So you can see the logs, and you don't have to dig around your OS after the upgrade and start somewhere and then go track it, right? This is a user-friendly way to do it, and you can do it anywhere, even on a phone, mobile device, right? And any of your global team can do that. And so with this, what is important is that any of these, you can say, I want to, pre-check how long did that run, right? So that's like a complete visualization of that, and also any errors, finish or not finished. So you have a dialog step, you have error step, the color code will change. In fact, I will switch back to the real one and show you. So this is a similar thing when we go into a Gantt view of a current upgrade, and we started like a couple of days ago, right? Go into extract, and where are we at right now? So the yellow progress is yellow while it's still running, right? So it's currently in configure, configure, actually finish extension. You can see here that you're in already. The check phase has some warnings, and then you have execute, which is where we are pre-processing right now, creating the shadow and doing activation. So again, this is ongoing. You see start time, yesterday, blah, 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 and still going on, right? Percentage completion. And so the beauty here is also any of these have logs. So if I just went into, I'm going to just as example, go into shadow, any of this has logs that I can pull up. And you can also, not only that, I had an error here, I think yesterday. Anyway, so you get the detail log. But let's just say I click on this face. So I stuck in the error, the screenshots, whatever, and it's right there. It's stored in this. I can even send this to somebody and ask them, hey, what's going on here? The problem. I can even get the whole email of my logs, all of my system here right now. I can say, give me all of my runbook updates in every phase. So here I am. I've got all kinds of different phase. You can shrink the phase. You can actually let me maximize this one out, and you can see. So no more, I don't have Word or something, just capturing it. I just directly into the face here. Why it's important? Because I can, do things like this and look at overview where I have all the different, maybe dialogues. Maybe for every dialogue, I capture screenshots, whatever. It's all in here, right? Including notes or whatever that you might have used, linked, whatever. And you can add again, if you just add more documentation, you can go ahead and do that here. Or you can send yourself a report. So maybe after this mock run or maybe halfway through, I can send a report of progress, all of the steps that have needed to interact or have errors need to deal with. I can do that and just send yourself a report. I actually did one. So let's see, I have one here as the example to show. So here's an example. I just send one, and whatever I show you interactively is sent. And so for auditability or team collaboration, you can send this information as a report, and we'll see exactly as an online documented. So there's no need to have a side document anymore for screenshots and stuff like that. You can if you want to, but I use it as Scratchpad, and I throw it in here. Everything I want to store. Because this will be stored with the upgrade, and the upgrade can retain that information, right? So I can have all of that information in here. So all of this is kind of exciting stuff. If you've done past upgrade, you might have done 3, 4, 5, whatever, and you have all this information. We actually have ability to talk about the desk. So when we turn on mail from some, we can also send it to IT-Conductor service desk, for instance, or you can send it anywhere. But the beauty is that we have an agentic agent that is capturing the alerts from the automatic notify email, right? IT-Conductor has built-in monitoring, obviously, and also alerting, which can be very useful for every single phase. Or you just want, anytime when they're stopped before, it just goes to your email, right? But now you can integrate that, create a ticket automatically, and have AI agent. So in this case, an example is like AI agents and say, hey, we will receive alert, you're in this phase. What are some recommendations? So we, IT-Conductor, can say, all right, look at this analysis. What is this error about? And auto respond. What are some of the remediation actions? And again, this will get into more advanced as we have the learning from prior runs, right? It can learn from that, or it can use the knowledge base out there to say, hey, I hit a activation error in this phase, and it can bring you all of the search. You don't have to go into SAP and look for the search, or go search yourself, include in there, or make recommendations. So even let's say it's running slow, and let's say we raise an alert that this phase is activating slow, it should be 5 hours, it's already 8 hours, blah, blah, blah. You got an alert, and it will tell you, likely what are some of the best practice to tune a particular phase, for instance. So those are some interesting thing there. This is an example of an AI agent that we have, and we can use many different models, large language models. This one is using Amazon Nova Lite, but you can see we plugged into all kinds of a model out there. So we're not forcing one way or the other. It might be one better suited for something. But in IT-Conductor today, we can automatically ask it, for instance, hey, estimate how long would take for this to run, adjust timing for this particular run exactly. So it can analyze the logs, it can do recommendation, it can compare based on data, and it has context. You can see it, memory recall. It can go back in time, recall what happened, provide you better context, and then make recommendation or outputs, right? So I've done upgrades where, I've now looked at past system and look at statistics and use AI to predict and guesstimate and provide that much more accurate for project management purposes. So these are some exciting things that we're doing. And I'd love to get more people's feedback and to see if they want to engage in this, where now you are, as I say, running the control, the human there is kind of like the orchestrator, and you have the system executing, whether it's collection of logs for storing, for documentations to alert you, etc. Or even there's a task in there that you need to run manually or run a batch job, something. That's what orchestration, the system can automate that. And so over time, I'm excited about being able to innovate around this space that's very complex, that's very manual, and it's not fully, and it probably won't be fully automated because of the variations and the amount of data it has to process, and different problems can occur for different reasons. But what we can do is take control of it, manage it best, and make it more efficient to reduce the risk. And that's really what management cares about, right? So you want to plan a very complex project. You're not going to just, guess. And that's not the right way to do it. So I appreciate the time here. Until next time, for design for intelligence and governed by data, and let the system carry the load, right? That's what really my quest and request at IT-Conductor to innovate for the age of agentic AI and intelligent orchestration to automate. So until next time, I'll see you on the next Linh Talks Tech.